First thing I want to say is, wow, this season is something. Oh my god. It exceeded my expectations by leaps and bounds, and at this point, honestly, I'm just so overwhelmed because there's so much I want to talk about. Especially considering they decided to drop 3 episodes at once.
With 3, there is balance.
So in this video, I'm going to do the best I can with the time that I have, and I'm just going to talk about a few scenes that stood out to me. This video is only going to cover scenes in episode 1, but I'm working on videos for the other 2 episodes as you watch this video. So hopefully I can get those out before episode 4 drops.
It may take time.
Time? We don't have time!
Perhaps that is enough for today.
Let's start off with something I noticed when the elves are searching for Elrond. In case you didn't watch the show, they're searching for him because he refused to give Gil-galad the elven rings, jumped off a cliff,
No!
and then swam his way over to this workshop to find a way to destroy the rings. So Galadriel knows deep down in her heart that he's seeking out the oldest, wisest elf to do this, naturally.
Elrond would seek out someone he can trust. Someone older, wiser, whose voice would command respect. Even from you. Someone who could turn the tides his way.
So they gallop their way over there, and this brings me to our moment of interest. Look at this searchlight in this scene. What do the elves have that could do this? Like, did they bring an elven helicopter with them? Did the elves invent LEDs? I know this is sort of just a small thing, but it's just so baffling to me that they went out of their way to include this searchlight. Like, what are they doing? Making a prison break scene? Like, what is this? What am I looking at? I don't understand it. The only thing I can think of that does this is the Eye of Sauron in the Peter Jackson trilogy. So maybe this is the Eye of Galadriel. Because just like Sauron's eye, she's searching for the rings too. And really, who knows what sort of dark magic she's capable of. Like, that's my best guess. That's me going out of my way to rationalize this. I really have nothing. If you understand why or how this makes any sense, please let me know in the comments, because I cannot figure this out for the life of me. Like, to me, this is a prime example of the beauty of this show. Just these small little details that they choose to include that add absolutely nothing, make no sense, yet they're there for God knows what reason. Speaking of pointless details, let's talk about the first scene in the show. The show starts off with the highly anticipated and long-awaited origin story for the crest that completely convinced Galadriel that Halbrand was the king of the Southlands. In my last video, I talk in depth about how often its significance was shoved in our face throughout Season 1. So I'm really happy that we're getting even more Crest action this season. If you saw my last video, feel free to skip ahead, but for those who haven't, here's a basic summary of my thoughts pertaining to the Crest. The whole season, Galadriel has been trying to convince Halbrand to become king of the Southlands because he's carrying a crest that apparently belonged to the old king of the Southlands.
Around your neck. Is that the mark of your people's king?
My people have no king.
But if they did?
She is convinced that since he is carrying this crest, it means with certainty that he is the heir to the throne.
Your people have no king. For you are him.
Like, she acts like this is all the proof in the world that would be needed to prove someone is the long-lost king of the Southlands.
King of the Southlands?
King of the Southlands. That's all you need, this little pouch with a crest on it. But what do I know? I've been roaming the lands of Middle-earth for hundreds of years.
Year gave way to year. Century gave way to century.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that people in Middle-earth just don't carry pouches with little crests on them unless they're royalty. That's the only way. It's the only way he could have this.
The lost heir in exile to the throne of the Southlands.
So it turns out I was completely wrong. This old guy, the owner of the crest, isn't even the heir to the throne.
That heraldry. What is it?
A symbol of kings long dead.
Your family?
No. My family served them.
Then why wear it?
So carrying this crest means absolutely nothing. I love how they keep mentioning this crest as if it would have any impact on anything if it weren't for Galadriel being so fucking stupid. But they keep doing it, and I love it. So thank you. Hopefully we get even more Crest Action as the series goes on, but you know, it might be exclusive to this episode. We'll see. In case this is the last time we get to feast our eyes on the magnificence of the Crest, here's one of my favorite Crest scenes from Season 1 that I didn't get to talk about in my last video. Look at how heavily she just eyeballs this Crest. Dude, she eye-fucks the living shit out of that thing. Oh my god. What is this reaction to the Crest? Just call the show Crests of Power at this point, because all I'm seeing is a bunch of people loving crests, caring about crests. This crest has done way more than any ring has in this entire story so far. We get a scene where we see Adar imposing his authority in the Southlands. And so he wants all the Southlanders to bow to him and become slaves, whatever. And then we get this scene.
Here, lads, you swear allegiance to Adar, Lord Father of the Uruk.
I'm pretty sure this moment was meant to establish the consequences of not swearing allegiance to Adar through tension and some mild horror, but every time I watch it, I just end up laughing. I think the tension falls flat because this guy is literally stabbed 2 seconds after being told to swear allegiance. And if anything, he lowered his head, which is generally recognized as a sign of submission, and wasn't even told that he had to bow until after he was stabbed.
But is the Southlands no more? In Mordor you bow, or you bleed.
So they just wasted a perfectly good, docile slave for no discernible reason.
Take that, slave! Take it!
And it's funny. It's funny. If they wanted to add tension, they could have had this guy look absolutely terrified. They could have had him unable to speak. And because he was so paralyzed with fear, he couldn't verbally swear allegiance.
Wake up!
And then after he can't muster the courage to speak up, they choose to stab him. They also could have had him rebel and say something like, "I'd never submit to a knife-eared orc," or some shit, you know? And if they really wanted to drive home the consequence aspect of it, they could have fed him to the warg, which was woefully underutilized in this episode. That would have at least been fun to watch. You know what, that's not fair, because this was fun to watch. At least I would have been able to take it seriously. That's what I meant to say. Because I could not take this seriously. How could anyone take this seriously? Come on. You got this bowl-cut headed dumb old idiot just spouting orders that don't make any sense, and then you got this dumbass orc just running out of the blue like this was all planned. Like, this whole scene feels so forced, and I mean, once again, that's something I really love about this show. Everything feels so inorganic and artificially inserted. Yeah, great stuff. Really just another highlight for me of this episode. But once again, this scene completely fell flat in evoking any sense of fear within me. It completely fell flat. It was terrible. And it's not like this show doesn't know how to make a good horror scene either. This episode has probably the most terrifying scene of the entire series so far. Ironically, episode 2 lists frightening scenes as a reason for its age restriction, but episode 1 has no such warning. So I was completely unprepared when this happened. So if you're easily frightened, you might want to skip ahead. If not,
Prepare yourselves.
Jesus Christ. Every time I see it, I swear. Galadriel's scary enough when she's not smiling, but there's just something so uncanny about seeing her in this state of bliss. Oh, God. Extremely disturbing stuff. For any of you that didn't skip ahead, I apologize. I shouldn't have subjected anyone to that. Speaking of Galadriel, we get her first no of the season. Last season, she had a tendency to give no credit to anyone else's thoughts and opinions, and it was always so funny. She would just say no, really directly.
Commander! Wait, no!
And man, I just love it. So this season, this elf suggests Elrond may have died after jumping off that cliff, and Galadriel is just so certain that he's still alive.
We've scoured everywhere water meets rock, and yet there's no trace of him. Perhaps the fall.
No. Elrond lives.
She really is equally, if not more, insufferable than she was in season 1, and it's so fucking awesome. Great job with Galadriel this season. Really great job. One of the main plots we follow this episode is the stranger and Nori, which is just so fucking boring and tedious.
Sing to me, land far away.
My god. But one good thing came out of it.
We haven't supped on anything since we ran out of snails.
They run out of snails to eat, of course. They're eating fucking snails. Disgusting. So Nori convinces Gandalf to seduce a tree.
You're mine, and I swear.
And then all these beetles just start swarming out of the tree, and Nori is just so elated.
You did it! We'll eat for days.
She's just so happy to see these beetles. They'll definitely have enough bugs to eat for months after that haul. Wow. So those are some of my favorite scenes from episode 1. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, because there's a lot more Rings of Power content on the way. And like I said, there's so much more to talk about, even in this episode alone. Like, there's so much to talk about. But I only have so much time, and it looks like I only have 2 more days to make episode 2 and 3 review, so...
We're out of time.
Amazon really fucked me by releasing 3 episodes at once. But anyway, I'm Medium Beetle.